I'm dying gratitude to y'all for keeping their members alive. I want to turn it over to George now. This is something. I understand there was 4 local people. Thank y'all. And I know, would y'all stand up please, the 4 that ran, the young people?
I don't think they're here,
One?
Claude. I don't think they came, Claude.
Okay. Was you?
He,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, your
I'll
uncle?
introduce the runners and
Okay.
everybody.
But I believe the Vietnam War touched everybody. Some good, some bad. And we really do thank y'all. George, it's yours now.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's start out by saying the pledge together. If we'll all stand. We have a flag up here in the front. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. All be seated, please. I'm just going to take a few minutes to share with you our vision, what we're here doing, why we're here. You know, some of you may not know as much as others as to really what we're doing here. The main mission, though, as Claude mentioned, is we are remembering. You know, we're remembering our fallen brethren. And that is one of the most important things that we can do as a nation. I think once we stop remembering why we have the freedoms that we enjoy, you know, then our country is in much sadder shape. And it is something that we have to keep top of mind. It's not something that just happens on its own, you know, because we all get busy. We all go about, you know, our daily activities. And when we are in a free society, there's a whole lot of things to do and get involved with. And remembering why we have freedom is sometimes at the bottom of our list. You know, I felt like I was a typical American. I didn't serve. I'm not a veteran. Although my dad, before I was born, was in the Navy for a few years. My uncle, my grandfather. But this was all before I was ever born. So I never was connected to any military service at all. And so I was a typical American. I think I just enjoyed life, you know, as we all do. And, you know, every day wasn't any different than any other day. You know, holidays came and went, and, you know, we take our time to do whatever it is that we feel like doing. And, you know, one day my son came up to me and he said, "Hey, Dad, I joined the Army." This was in 2003. And I looked at him and I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "There's a war going on, buddy, you know?" And he said, "Dad, I think I can make a difference." He said, "There's countries that need our help, and I think I can make a difference. You know, I've got some skills that can contribute." And of course, I was proud of him, gave him a big hug, and because he was his own man by then. He wasn't a kid. You know, he was 23 and had a family, and, you know, kind of off he went. But I never gave it another thought. It didn't make me any more patriotic. I just thought, okay, now he's in the Army, and off he went, right? But unfortunately, one day he didn't come home like that. Appreciate country, but we don't. I don't want to say take it for granted, but many do. And I won't go into all the statistics about how many serve and how many have served, but I will tell you that of the small percentage that have served or are serving, mostly national service. Many generations of the same families have been contributing and protecting and preserving our freedom. And so that's lost to the biggest percentage of our country. And I don't know how you wake them up. I really don't. So as an organization, the Honor and Remember organization was established about 10 years ago. And it was established to bring public remembrance to the nation, to, and I used this term last night, the unchurched. You know, I'd call them the unchurched, those who don't get the military connection. Because I can sit here and preach to the choir. You guys all get it. You know, you're here. You know, you understand. You served. You know. You lost friends. But you're a small percentage, you know, of the nation. And so the organization was created to bring public remembrance. And the best idea that we thought of was to create a national symbol. Because if we could create something that was visible and we could put it out in front of a nation who doesn't understand and educate them, then maybe they would get it. And that happened, the model was very, very similar to the POW MIA. I'm sure you all remember in early 70s, actually 1971, the POW MIA flag was first introduced. And it had a long, hard battle, believe me. Back then, not everybody wanted it. But it held its own, and 18 years later, it was finally adopted, as a symbol, as an American symbol. It was a long, hard battle. And so in 2008, the Honor and Remember flag was unveiled to become a national symbol of remembrance for all those that gave their lives in the history of our country and all families that they left behind, as a way for all of Americans to send a message of thanks by displaying it or flying it. Actually, the VVA in 2008 nationally was one of the first organizations to endorse the Honor and Remember flag. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. It was a long, hard time of a lot of conversation and a lot of board meetings. And we gathered collectively all of the names that was over 20,000 service members. And those 20,000 names were every service member who died while serving, regardless of how they died, or as a result of serving, even if they died after service as a result of post-traumatic stress. So we have accumulated the largest database of fallen service members to be spoken out loud, 1,000 unique dates. And 5 months, 6,000 miles, 120 days. Those 6,000 miles, it happened October 13th, and then the marker is dedicated. And then we read of each one of those service members. And as we read them, we plant that set of flags into the ground if we can. If not, we just touch the ground with them. And each set represents each life. And then when we're done with each set, we come back and we render honor, either with a hand salute or hand over our heart, depending on whether you served or you're civilian. And then we pick up the next placard with the next names and the next set of flags, and off we go. And we do this every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, 8 to 10 hours a day. And we have been doing this for 97 days. Why? Because every one of these men and women had a unique place in our country's history. They are our national treasure. If you think about it that way, they are sincerely our national treasure. And they deserve to have their names remembered, not just by the families, because the families will never forget, but by the rest of us who don't even know their names, but should know that they exist. And so that is our mission, from California to Arlington Cemetery, until we have named every single life that has been lost up to the moment we enter Arlington Cemetery. We will have called out every single name from the U.S. Cole forward. And how do we know that we have the largest database of fallen service members? Not only did we collect all of these names, but then we broadcast to everyone we could. Veterans groups, Gold Star families, active duty, and we asked them to go to our website and find their hero on a searchable database. And if they didn't find them, they could add them. And so we've just been adding for the last 2.5 years, till I believe we do have the largest fallen service member database since the USS Cole, probably of anyone in the world. And we are going to honor each and every one of them. Do we have our flag? Why is this important? Black with names. by the families who came out to their markers, traveling thousands of miles, tens of hours across this entire nation, from Virginia to California, from Pennsylvania to Arizona. Yesterday we had families from Georgia, and they signed their loved one's name. And this was how important it was for them to come to a place on the side of the road that may not even have a shoulder and hear us call their name for 30 seconds and then give them a hug and move on. That's all the time we have, because our timetable is to make sure everyone is honored in the same fashion, every single marker. Thank you. I don't know how many names are on there, but it looks like several hundred. So in the last 97 days, those are the lives we touched. And I don't think every family got a chance to sign, because sometimes we didn't have the flag right at the right time. So the significance of that, if it's that important for those families to have been there, don't you think it means something to them to have the nation remember? And so today we ran for 107 fallen service members. 107. This is one of our lowest days. I mean, thank God the numbers are going down. And we ran 62 dates of death. So 62 dates of death for 107 heroes. And one of the things that we do at the end of every evening, and it's been great since we reached the Midwest, is that we've had an end of day where we've actually had people with us. There were many a day where we were completely alone, and at the end of the day, we were heating up soup in the microwave, and we were just as a core group. And it really is heartwarming to know and be in the presence of those who understand the mission and who are welcoming and want to be a part of an historic moment. Because this isn't going to happen again. We're not coming back again next year and doing this again. This has took 2.5 years to plan, to be right here at this moment. And you'll be able to say that you were a part of it. And so 107 names, and what we do at the end of every day is we read those names again. We've been reading them all day long, and we have a live feed. Actually, anybody could watch us. Today we had a good, strong signal on our feed. So anybody could have watched us all day long and listened and participated from afar, and many families do if they can't be here. How many of you know we had a live feed and have seen it? See? So only a few tonight. Tomorrow, it's runforthefallen.org. See, runforthefallen.org. I want everybody to tune in tomorrow and watch us honor. You can do it on your phones. Okay? So that's good. You didn't see it. You didn't hear us today call out those 107 heroes. But if you had, you would have noticed it was a very noisy day. We were on a very narrow road most of the day, and the road noise was horrific. And so often you didn't get to hear those names being called. And so at the end of the day, we like to reread them in a quiet place so that everybody can hear them. And we record them wherever our recorder is so that the families may have a chance to again hear what they might not have heard during the day. And the other reason is because if they aren't listening, you are. And although it may not be your family member, I want everyone to listen as we read them after everyone silences their cell phones. That's all right, I'm the worst offender. Please do silence your cell phones. But I want you to be able to stand in for those families who aren't here with us. So as we're reading them, I want you to listen as if they're your family members. As if you are anticipating, as they would, if they were in this room, the hearing of their. You don't have to stand as we read these names. Please, stay comfortable. You may do whatever you like. But we are going to read every name that we ran for today. And we are now reading in the year and running in the year 2014. Today we crossed over into 2014. So we have been, as we started in 2000, we are now just starting the year 2014.
The dates that we ran for today were December 21st of 2013 through April 4th of 2014. Staff Sergeant Stephen Dwayne Thorson, United States Army. Private Jonathan Thomas Hales, United States Army. Sergeant Daniel M. Vesalian, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Hector Guillermo Serrato, United States Army. Lance Corporal Anthony James Schott, United States Marine Corps Reserves. Staff Sergeant Daniel Alonzo Jr., United States Army. Captain David I. Lyon, United States Air Force. Sergeant First Class Jason Bishop Granger, United States Army. Sergeant Nicholas Daniel Westfall, United States Army. Sergeant Maker Fernandez, United States Army. Petty Officer Second Class William C. Trapnell IV, United States Coast Guard. Specialist James Paul Meisenheimer, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Tomiwo Adrian Suzuki, United States Army. Lance Corporal Matthew Allen Raymer, United States Marine Corps.
Sergeant Jacob M. Hess, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Randolph Timothy Chong Tim Jr., United States Army. Private Major Patty Lindler, United States Army. Sergeant First Class William K. Lacey, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Lamont William Smith, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Robert Floyd Feder Jr., United States Army. Captain Christopher S. Stover, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Afton Marie Ponce, United States Air Force. Tech Sergeant Dale E. Matthews, United States Air Force. Captain Sean M. Renane, United States Air Force. Specialist Ryan T. Christensen, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Sheldon Shane Price, United States Army. Lieutenant J. West Van Dorn, United States Navy. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Andrew L. McAdams, United States Army National Guard. Sergeant Drew M. Scobie, United States Army National Guard. Corporal Joshua Daniel Remy, United States Army. Specialist Andrew Scott Hafen, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Cornelius James Hodges, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Laney Francisco Duarte, United States Army. Private First Class Joshua M. Islam, United States Marine Corps. Major Oren Carpenter, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Jonathan Lawrence Manor, United States Army. Specialist Andrew H. Sybil, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Brian Douglas Huslinser, United States Army. Private 1 Ryan Christopher Bruton, United States Army. Petty Officer 3rd Class John Floyd Rainey, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Sean Andrew Woods, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer II, Edward Bally, United States Army. Specialist Zachary Arthur Moyer, United States Army. Captain Scott Weishart, United States Air Force. Sergeant Brian Christopher Clarkson, United States Army. Specialist Calvin John McCharlick, United States Army. And Specialist Glenn Allen Moore III, United States Army.
Staff Sergeant Alton Jefferson II, United States Army. Sergeant Corey Chester Bay, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Jose Maria Casales, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Joseph Gerard Trobek, United States Army. First Lieutenant Stephen Alexander Dumas, United States Army. Specialist Christopher B. Spears, United States Army National Guard. Sergeant Manaris Bones Sapita, United States Army. Specialist Tyler Brent Hammett, United States Army. Petty Officer First Class Letitia Jones, United States Navy. First Lieutenant David Mark Bird Remick, United States Marine Corps. Captain Todd Martin Ketterer, United States Army. Specialist Brandon Alfonso Jones, United States Army. Major Kimberly Ann Speck, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel William Robert Holstein, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Matiho Ben King, United States Army. Private Second Class Samuel Mark Amarund, United States Army. Private First Class Jordan Carl Selfie, United States Army. Private Second Class Raymond Branzulo Tolentino, United States Army. Specialist Ian Patrick Morgan, United States Army. Specialist Christopher A. Landis, United States Army. Private Second Class Christopher Ray Woods, United States Army. Private First Class Joseph A. Gray, United States Army. Specialist Jedediah Dean Zilmer, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Mitchell Lee Brittingham, United States Army. Specialist John A. Pelham, United States Army. Sergeant Roberto C. Skeltz, United States Army. Master Sergeant Aaron C. Torton, United States Marine Corps. Master Sergeant John James Agar IV, United States Air Force. Sergeant Stephen Michael Maddock III, United States Army. Sergeant Brandon M. Fry, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Zarek Dunson, United States Army. Master Sergeant David L. Poirier, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Caleb L. Erickson, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Marcos Antonio Corona, United States Army.
Major Reed B. Nannon, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Cody Allen Douglas, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Patricia Ann Leahy, United States Army. Master Sergeant Bert J. Garvin, United States Army. Specialist Emmanuel Placier, United States Army. Specialist Eric Paul Rowdybush, United States Army. Specialist Jason Allen Frank, United States Army. First Lieutenant Christopher David Holbrook, United States Army. Sergeant Christopher Eugene Terry, United States Army. Specialist Robert Lee Ruttar Jr., United States Army. Lance Corporal David M. Benavides, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Sergeant Cale Wayne Drum, United States Army. First Sergeant Brian K. Couch, United States Army. Petty Officer James Patrick Darcy, United States Navy.
Staff Sergeant Richard Wade Langley Jr., United States Army. Sergeant First Class Justin Ross Williams, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Israel Cervantes, United States Army. Specialist Robert John Hoadley, United States Army. Specialist Derek John Painter, United States Army. Private First Class Brianna Gail Fleshman, United States Army. Captain James E. Chaffin III, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Daniel Michael Ferguson, United States Army. Sergeant Timothy Wayne Owens, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Carlos A. Lozane Rodriguez, United States Army National Guard. Sergeant Jonathan David Humble Walden, United States Army.
107 heroes over 62 unique dates of death. I don't know if that many heroes has ever been called out loud in this church right here, in this unique and reverent moment. But before I close this portion, it isn't just about those names that we read, is it? It's about everyone who has given their life, everyone to this moment. And I would like to give you an opportunity, those are here that are here. Although we're calling out the names on certain points of the war on terror, we want to give the opportunity to honor everyone possible. And so if you have someone in your heart, if you have a loved one, if you have a battle buddy, if you have a neighbor, if you have somebody that you would like to include in this moment of honor, then I would ask that you raise your hand and speak their name out loud. Give me their rank, name, and their branch of service if you know it. So don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
Our son, Marine Corps Sergeant Kelly Lance Courtney, he and 7 other Marines were killed October the 30th, 2004. His name was read in Utah. Y'all read his name, and we're really glad that one of the other Gold Star families of some of the other Marines that were with him were there to be present when y'all came through Arizona.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I will have the other 7 names to read at the same time with Kelly tomorrow night.
Okay.
I would stumble through it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any generation. Yes, sir.
Paul Michael Lipinski. He was a captain, I believe. He served in the Navy during World War II. He survived the attack on Pearl Harbor. I'd just like to have him remembered.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Corporal Richard Sutter was killed at Peace Church in Quezon in 1969.
Yes, ma'am.
Gunnery Sergeant Justin Robert Martoni killed 3706 in Anbar Province, Iraq. Our son.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Petty Officer Robert James Patak, Navy Submarines, Mount Brother.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My godbrother, Tony Ayala, Vietnam. He was a 2-striper in the Marine Corps. I can't, corporal, thank you, that's what I was trying to ask you. He was a corporal.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
A couple of my friends from the South, and Gunnery Sergeant Marvin Jackson, he was in the Marine Corps, and J.W. Martin, he was in the Marine Corps.
Thank you.
I
Yes,
have one more in my.
yes, ma'am, please.
I have a Medal of Honor recipient who died after Vietnam. He died in 93. Roy Benavides. Oh, U.S. Army, I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My husband, Charles Hilton, he lost his battle with PTSD August 1st, 2011. He was in the Army.
Sometimes we hold names inside and we never speak them for years because we keep it close. But to speak a name out loud in a group of those who understand has more power than we realize. If you have someone, you lost a friend, speak his name. Yes, sir. We could just bow our heads for a moment of silence and think about the names that we read tonight and those that were spoken, those that were unspoken, and those that we are yet to read on our journey to Arlington. Amen.
Amen.
I got an email from a mother last night, actually. And I don't think I'd be able to find it to read it to you, but I'm going to paraphrase it. She lost her son, who was 37, to those hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress. And her email to me was, I don't know what I am. I don't know that I'm a Gold Star mother. All I know is I'm grieving. And what we're doing as an organization is encompassing and embracing and loving every family who's hurting because of military-related incidences, casualties, whatever that might be. And so, in this moment, if you are a Gold Star family, by our definition, and that is pretty broad, if you lost a loved one in any generation while serving in any capacity, on their way to work or as a result of serving, by those hidden wounds, by Agent Orange, by any service related, I would like for you to stand so that we might recognize you. If you feel in that definition, as broad as that may be, please stand. Thank you. Thank you. We honor them, please. Then, is the Sheehan family here? Is there a Sheehan family here? If not, Claude. Okay.
Don't go anywhere, George.
Don't go anywhere, okay?
I'd like to call on Bill Horn to step forward, please, tonight. Treasurer, and he wants to make.
Thank you for everything that you're doing. We want to make a contribution to your organization. I left it blank, so I don't know which.
It's a blank check?
It's a blank. The amount's filled in.
I got really excited.
So that our people know it's a $200 contribution to this organization to help them with their expenses.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
And that's for you, and thank you for everything that you do. The motto we always have is never forget.
Amen.
And you have reiterated that tonight. And we thank you very much for it.
Honored. Honored. Thank you so much, Tim.
Yeah. Now let us pray. Heavenly Father, for this opportunity to gather here and honor this organization as they continue on their way, and make sure that they arrive safely at their destination. Lord, we ask you to be with him for his sake. Amen.
Amen. It's up, though. This is something I failed to do last night, and I beg the forgiveness of my team, but it takes an entire team to put this together. I have a core team of 8 that is committed for 5 months of their life to make sure that every one of these loved ones are remembered. Plus, we pick up local runners and support along the way. Kathy has been amazing, and Alicia in the state of Georgia to help us get to this point. I know your points of contact were not directly with us all the time, so I want to recognize you two. If you'll stand up so we can we can honor you and
And all of your
recognize you.
team.
And
All
is
of
there
your
anybody
team.
here on your team? Please stand. Thank you. And now I'd like my core team to stand, please. This is our group. This is my family, my new family right now. And then I know we only have one runner. Is there anybody else who ran with us today? Chris, stand up. I think Chris is the only one that's here tonight. He ran all day. We have something back for him. Amen. So that's all I wanted to do. Thanks, guys. Forgive me for last night. We're ready.
Visitors, please come this way and have a meal. They, the greatest thing in the world.
That's the way we like it.